everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer today. Happy Thursday. Hopefully you guys are having a good week. Wanted to come on the channel and create a video and rap a little bit about this incoming square that we are seeing between Pluto and Aquarius and the nodes. Definitely the times are changing. We're feeling the pressure. Some of us are going to be feeling a little bit like we're getting cooked here the next couple of weeks. It's not just the eclipse season, although we do have an eclipse coming in that's going to square Pluto. I think it's more so this in and out that Pluto is doing, this dance in and out of Pluto and in and out of Aquarius and Capricorn. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Pluto square the nodes in aspects, what that represents, especially on a soul level, and how this is going to be impacting everybody in a very profound way in regards to making big changes, big transformations in both the Capricorn and the Aquarius energy in our chart. Do me a favor, if you're new to my channel, make sure you give me a thumbs up, drop me a link below, say hello, and let me know where you're tuning in from. Make sure you're subscribed, that way you're alerted as to when I have new videos coming out on the channel, and please do consider joining my memberships if you want to support my work. All right, so I'm calling this lecture The Reluctant Soul because I kind of get that vibe with Pluto in hard aspects to the north and the south node, this unwillingness, right, the pushback when it comes to change and transformation. It reminds me, you know, the Buddha said, change is never painful, only resistance to change is painful. I feel like that is a huge theme right now, at least for me. I don't know, you guys tell me how you're doing with this. I guess the way that I could put this is, you know, any change right now, even if it's for the better, is going to have some feeling or drawbacks of discomfort. So it's kind of like the process of birthing something new, and that rarely comes without any fear or any phases that we kind of have to move through. So obviously it can be kind of scary. So raise your hand if you're feeling the squeeze. It's intense out there. I think what it's bringing up for everybody collectively is this knowing that we have to change. And I use the term we, not loosely, because it is taking place in Aquarius. So Pluto in Aquarius is about transformation of consciousness, the masses going through some kind of change. We see, you know, both ends of the spectrum here. The higher octaves of Pluto can be about things kind of toppling and dismantling or falling apart, dying off only to be reborn. But obviously the other side is going to be dealing with power struggles, fear, corruption, death, and also anything in regards to the future, right? So the future may seem a little bleak right now for some of us, but it's also pushing us collectively to go through this together so we can focus on really integrating more of the North Node. Now, as many of you guys know, the North Node currently is in the sign of Taurus. It's going to be there until July of this year. South Node is in Scorpio. Essentially, we're dealing with the South Node ruler, right? Pluto, who is basically saying, hey, I'm going to create some mischief. I'm going to cause some problems. I'm going to dig up some fear. I'm going to pull all the skeletons out of the closet that is keeping you from being able to move forward effortlessly into your future. As an honorary guide to the underworld myself, being a Sun Pluto, I kind of feel like it's my job to welcome you guys through this process. It's kind of like going to hell and back. My passport has certainly been stamped to hell and back a few times. So just relax, take a seat, enjoy the show, make sure you have a good view of the grand finale. This is going to be really me kind of rapping on some of my personal experiences having Sun conjunct Pluto, but more importantly, I have Pluto square my natal nodes natally by about 5 degrees. So I really understand this transit. I hope that it's empowering for you guys. I hope that you guys see the next couple of months as a rebirth process that can be just like hopelessly and gloriously insightful. Now, in evolutionary astrology, when Pluto comes into a hard angled square with the nodes, right, it represents, in a sense of assessing the natal chart, a skipped step. Okay, so what does that mean? It basically means that this is a soul that is unwilling to do the dirty work, right? So in this lifetime, when you come in with this particular signature, it represents The lunar nodes, the karmic path of destiny, right? The north node of where we're going, what we're learning, what we're growing into, the south node of what we're kind of detaching and letting go of. Well, Pluto represents the death and the rebirth and the transformation process, but really what Pluto wants to bring is empowerment. So when Pluto comes to a square with the nodes in transit or in natal, we feel this really powerful tension basically between the past and the future, a need to reconcile and integrate these energies to better, more so move forward on our evolutionary path. So it's like there's hurdles we have to kind of cover. We have to be able to kind of integrate and go through this major transformative process in order to get from point A, the south node, to point B, the north node. In general terms, to make it very simple, I have a list of a few interpretations of how we may see this in an evolutionary sense. That's the astrology that I really love. That's what I traditionally learned alongside with tropical Western astrology. I'm a big fan of nodal, transits, eclipses, and Pluto aspects for really better understanding why we came here, what our lesson is, and what we're here to supersede. So that way we move through some of these lessons and in hopes that we're integrating that into this life and carrying on into our next reincarnation. Now, for me, the big thing is karmic patterns, right? So the square between Pluto and the nodes can indicate a deeply ingrained karmic pattern that we're meant to overcome in this lifetime. So some of you guys may be saying, well, I don't have a Pluto square. How does it affect me? The north and the south node are connected to the moon, right? And the moon is about our collective emotions and things that are unfolding. Outer planets like Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, these are all planets that move very slowly, and they have slow collective effects on everyone, especially anything that we're looking at in the sign of Aquarius. So the truth is that nobody really gets to skip the lessons over the next couple of months. You guys are going to see that there is going to be this immense amount of pressure both in the Capricorn and Aquarius area of your chart. And it's almost being like compacted into the spring and summer of 2023. When we see these really intense squares, it can involve confronting and releasing old traumas, emotional wounds, and patterns and behavior that has been holding us back. So like I said, even though Pluto means well, sometimes he gets a bad rap for being the bad guy, and he can come in and dismantle something or create a lot of chaos or bring up all kinds of bad habits, fears, or old wounds. But he's doing that because ultimately he wants to teach you how to supersede that and heal. So some of us can really see like fear becoming a huge topic in our lives right now. And a book that I always go to is it's Elizabeth Gilbert. She wrote the book Big Magic. And I love how she talks about fear and like allowing fear to kind of come along for the ride, but to sit in the passenger seat and not be in the driver's seat, using that as like motivation for being able to get to where you need to go. Might be a really great book for you guys to consider reading or looking into if you're working with some of this stuff, especially in regards to like overcoming fear of dreaming big or achieving your goals or connecting with other people, because Pluto is in the sign of Aquarius. Obviously, intense transformation, that goes without needing to be said. Because Pluto is associated with intensity, the process of death and rebirth, with this aspect, there can be a powerful desire to shed old skin and release the past and embrace a new way of being that's more authentic and aligned to our soul's purpose. So for me, like something that's always been a strong symbol that I have really loved has always been the scorpion, because it represents that venom and that ability to be the poison or the remedy. You might also be into like snake totems and snake magic or anything in regards to the symbolism of being able to shed old skin. You know, it's an interesting thing, because really I think it's going to be about how we look at that process. If we're so afraid to go into some of those changes, we may be missing out on some amazing opportunities to really be able to uncover something that could really be the key to some of our wildest dreams. Now, evolutionary growth always comes when we see a planet square the nodes, because it does represent the need to integrate that planet into our psyche, be aware of it, be working with it consciously. So the square between Pluto and the nodes can indicate a significant evolutionary growth and expansion, but generally it involves taking risks, stepping outside of our comfort zone, embracing new challenges and opportunities that lead us toward our destiny. Now, obviously there's going to be power struggles. That's what we see with Pluto squares, whether it's with the nodes or outer planets. You guys will see when I get into the transits ahead why it's going to be so intense, especially as we're seeing the Sun and Jupiter ingressing into Taurus. It's really going to create some loud booms in some of our lives and be showing us where we need to actually physically make some of these changes. But there can be power struggles because we're focusing on being able to move past anything in regards to challenges with authority figures or reclaiming our power, standing up for ourselves, changing the status quo in order to fulfill our destiny. So you guys may see Pluto being in Capricorn and Aquarius as being like the areas of your life where the threats are coming from, where stuff is kind of like spewing out and you're like, oh, I don't want to look at it. Like this is just too much, or it's scary. I don't want to go there. But the further that you guys move away from that, the harder it's actually going to be to go through the process. So a lot of it's going to be about not allowing that thing to overpower you, not allowing that to kind of drive you away, doing the work and being willing to see what is potentially subterrane some of those fears, right? Because Pluto is about kind of digging deep and figuring out what's down below. Now, one of my favorite evolutionary astrologers, I have several that I have really been fond of over the years, but one of my favorites and the program that I went through was Jeffrey Wolf Green's evolutionary, like Pluto school. And his daughter, I found an article that I uncovered online that I wanted to just read to you guys a few brief little pieces of, because I found it very profound. And she put it very simply. I think it was like on one of her message boards, and she took excerpts from one of her books. So Jeff's daughter, Deva, who I believe still is involved in like running his school, wrote this. So this is from her. There are 4 general ways that Pluto can affect or instigate change. There are 2 distinctly different types of evolution. One is uniform, which correlates with slow progressive change, and the other is cataclysmic, which obviously correlates to traumatic events after which we experience an evolutionary leap in our growth. These 2 types of evolution can be validated by examining our own life experiences, and they are vastly different from each other in terms of how we experience them. By far the most difficult and troubling way Pluto affects our evolution is by cataclysmic events. Sometimes we experience traumatic events in such magnitude that there's no choice but to change for most of us after the event. The point to remember here is that these events only occur for 2 reasons. 1, we have resisted the necessary growth to such an extent that it takes a cataclysmic event to force change. As mentioned before, if the soul desires to do a lot of growth in this life, yet is resisting, then a traumatic event will occur in order to enforce necessary change. Another potential cause of cataclysmic events is the karmic causes in which past karmic retribution comes up. Every action has a reaction, and it boils down to natural law and cause and effect. The deepest dimension of this type of evolution is that it enforces the severing removal of all dependencies or attachments. In essence, anything that we have come overly identified with in an emotional level, such as the way that is preventing further growth, is forcibly removed from our lives through a cataclysmic event. Ultimately, this is why these events are so difficult and painful. Another vital factor to remember, the main 3 reactions to our evolutionary growth is described in the book Pluto Volume 1, Evolutionary Journey of the Soul, directly impacts the types of Plutonian experiences that we have. There are 3 reactions. 1, totally resisting growth, which is uncommon. 2, changing in some ways and not in others. This is by far the most common choice. And 3, totally embracing the necessary changes in evolutionary growth in an open and non-threatening way. This, of course, is an uncommon choice. In other words, it's our response to evolutionary growth that creates the type of experiences that we will have. If the soul desires to change, purge certain negative dynamics, yet you're resisting the change, then the possibility of a cataclysmic event will be very likely. In this case, the desire to change overrides resistance, and change will happen after the cataclysmic event. It will teach us to stop resisting necessary growth and try our best to maintain a positive and open attitude towards change. The key word here is desire. If the desire to change is in return, if the desire to change to return and merge with source is strong enough, then it'll happen. And unfortunately, the resistance of desire will stay separate from the source strong enough that it will happen too. So essentially, right, we're going to respond to things a couple different ways. We can wait until Pluto creates that sudden kind of tower moment in our life that's going to show us where we're falling into these old patterns and where we can finally make the change. And then once that event happens, we can decide, okay, nope, I'm closed down, I'm not doing it, which I'm going to tell you guys right now is going to make the whole process a lot more difficult, because we are going to see Pluto go in and out of the sign of Aquarius for really the better part of the next 18 months. 2, you'll go, okay, I'll change some things, but not others, which is at least open, but it may still be a bumpy ride. And then there's 3, which is just like, you know what, screw it. Anything is possible. Let's just do it, even though it's really scary. It's been my experience that that's not my reaction to things. So don't beat yourself up if that's not how you're responding to stuff right now. I've also seen with clients that those who are going through transit squares involving Pluto, let's say a transit, Jupiter is squaring a natal Pluto or opposing. Let's say you're going through your Pluto square Pluto or transit Pluto square your sun. These squares, which are actually, I think, because of the energy of Mars, so much more difficult to deal with, that it literally forces you into this situation that can feel like crisis, but really what separates a crisis from an opportunity is all going to be your perspective. So you guys want to keep in mind a lot of this is perspective, right? So Pluto stuff is going to start hitting. We're going to start looking around going, oh my gosh, this thing is changing, or this happened, or now we can no longer go back to that way. And then it's all going to be about how you look at the experience and what you're taking away from it, right? Like I said, it's all going to be about your guys' perspective and how you approach this. Now, in particular, in astrology, I want to talk to you guys about a square, right? So we've talked about how when Pluto squares the nodes, it means, hey, you know, transform or die, right? If you don't do that, if you resist, then you will definitely feel the burn. But what is the square, right? The square is the hard 90-degree angle that this would actually be considered a T-square, okay? Because we've got Pluto at 0 and the nodes are going to be at 4. It's about a 3, almost 4-degree orb that I'm working with. When the actual square perfects in July, we're actually going to see the square happen at 29 degrees of the cardinal signs. So the square won't be exact in the fixed signs, which I think is actually better. We're going to feel this building square up until July, and then when everything sinks in July and we see everything hit 29 degrees, we'll actually have a Pluto at 29 degrees and we'll have a new moon in Cancer, and it's all going to force things to happen. I'm not a fan of squares, but squares in transit or in natal chart, they do give us a little bit of grit, right? So it's like we don't want to have a chart that's made up of trines and sextiles and things like that. We need to have other things that are going to bring about friction that's going to encourage us to change. Otherwise, we get too comfortable, we get lazy. And just a fast fact, everybody's going to have at least one opposition in their chart natally, because you're going to have the nodes oppose each other always. So that in itself is already a hard angle. Now we would call this a T-square, right? We have Pluto square the nodes, so we have 90 degrees on each angle, and I've used this expression before, but it's kind of like driving in the car and then something T-bones you and just wham, hits you out of nowhere that you don't see coming. That's how the T-square works. The way out of that pressure is to go deeper into the planet and to actually proactively work with that planet and integrate that into your life. And it will, in theory, help you move from point A, the past south node, into your north node. So the willingness to go through that death and rebirth is actually the most important thing. In my opinion, it's a lot easier to have like a grand cross. So for example, even though it's going to be dramatic, sudden changing events, because all of the points are going to be 29 degrees over the summertime in July. We'll see the north and the south node at 29 of Libra and Aries. Pluto will be back at 29 in Capricorn, which we saw how intense that was the last few months. At least when we have the grand cardinal cross that's going to set up over the summer, the cross actually makes the entire wheel of the chart turn. So it's going to make 4 separate areas in our life change at the same time. So if we actively work with it, we can actually find that we can move through things a lot more swiftly. And I'm more a fan of cardinal squares or mutable squares, because at least cardinal squares are going to say, we're going to get going, we're going to initiate something, and it's going to feel that pressure. When you're just dealing with a T-square, all of the energy is being pushed into the focal point of that T-square. So we're really going to be feeling Pluto all the way up through the summer, that building pressure of something's got to change. Pluto's then going to drop back into Capricorn. We have the grand cardinal cross and we go, okay, it's time to get going. And so many will feel at 29 degrees, there are things we need to do. We must do them right now. Anyway, you're going to feel this building. And in astrology, when we have these planets that are 90 degrees apart, it's considered a hard or a challenging aspect because it creates tension, conflict, and obstacles. So there's a need to overcome something in order to get to the finish line and be able to really reach our goals and some of our aspirations. Now there's 3 different types of squares in astrology, okay? So we've got the cardinal squares, the fixed squares, and the mutable squares. I'm going to be talking to you guys about the difference between the fixed square, which we're going to be experiencing now through July, and then the cardinal square, which we're going to be feeling for about a month or so in July, okay? So for starters, the cardinal squares, right, which we're going to be feeling, actually, let me start with the fixed squares. We're going to start with the fixed squares because that's where we're kind of coming into right now. So the fixed squares occur when 2 planets or more are going to be in the signs of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. These squares tend to be associated with tension, conflict related to holding on to things, resisting change, being stubborn, and can be related to issues of control, jealousy, or possessiveness, right? Because fixed signs are rigid, they hold the energy of that sign. They do not want to change. That's the problem here. So we're going to see that it's really enhancing the flavor of this particular energy of Pluto square the nodes, which has this very strong archetypal connection to Scorpio, which is I'm afraid of change, I'm afraid of loss, I'm afraid of letting go, I'm afraid of starting over, I'm afraid of death, I'm afraid of not having enough, right? Or the trauma that may be coming up from something. Now, it also can definitely bring up, I think, financial issues because it's taking place in financial signs. We know that Taurus deals with our own resources, our values, the money in our pocket, the money in our bank account. It also deals with our possessions. It deals with our food and our physical experience of pleasure. Scorpio deals more with the money that we owe, the exchanges that we have with others, the investments with others, our joint assets, our taxes, insurance, inheritance, things of that nature. And then Aquarius is going to deal more archetypally. This is the money that may come from our 10th house career. So it represents the 2nd house to the 10th house. So ultimately what's changing in terms of how we're making money. I think we're already seeing this in the world. A lot of people are seeing the benefit of starting their own companies, working online, starting businesses with friends, finding new systems and networks that they can put together, working side hustles, right? People are learning that it's only going to work if they start kind of innovating and doing something different. But it also deals with like politics, and it deals with, government and how they're dictating and determining what's going to be going on with certain systems. So in a way, we're already starting to see the square that's forming. All right, so then we're going to have the cardinal squares, which will take place over the summer. And cardinal squares are a completely different energy. Cardinal squares are going to bring obviously tension and conflict, but it's in regards to taking action, initiating new projects, and asserting oneself in the world. So there can be issues in regards to control, power struggles, and impatience. I see all of the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, as like little sergeants or generals, right? And everybody wants to say, you do this, you do this, you do that. They're like kind of like the bosses of the zodiac. They express their energies different, but they all want to just like start and initiate something. They're very busy. If you think of these signs also, these are the signs that initiate the seasons. So where the fixed signs carry it out, the cardinal signs are the ones who go, okay, let's get this initiated, let's start it. And Taurus says, okay, I'll build it, right? Leo says, okay, I'll perform it. Scorpio says, I'll change it. Aquarius says, I'll share it with everyone. So we're working backwards. If you guys haven't realized that by now, the nodes, they do retrograde. They go direct and they go retrograde, but they actually rotate in the chart counterclockwise. So we're going to see it move from 4 degrees of Taurus to 29 degrees of Aries, the north node, from 4 degrees of Scorpio to 29 degrees south node of Libra, making that square. So in general, I think really where we're going to see issues is right now there's too much themes coming up with control, jealousy, possessiveness, and afraid of transformation in the Aquarius energy of our life. We'll see Pluto retrograde back into Capricorn, and we're going to go, okay, now we need to deal with how do we control this? How do we work through power struggles? And also just feeling anxious or feeling impatient. Now, I know you guys are going to want to know who this is affecting the most. So you might want to just make a note of this because It is going to affect everybody differently. Like I said, everybody's going to experience Pluto square the nodes throughout the next couple of months, so nobody gets a pass. I'm kind of pleased to announce that everybody's doing their dance, right? It's like the band, the cosmic band is playing. The mutable signs are definitely dealing with their fair share of things with having Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Pisces. So whether you're in an early degree of a mutable sign or a later degree, you're experiencing squares or conjunction. The fixed signs are definitely still feeling this because we do have a lot of energy that's moving through Taurus, and now Pluto is in Aquarius. And the cardinal signs are now coming online because you guys are going to start feeling the pressure of both Jupiter, the eclipses, and the Pluto retrograde. So everybody is going through the cosmic pressure cooker, all right? Those of you guys who are going to feel this the most, let's just start off with who's feeling it right now. Anybody who's got any placements, I would say about 0 to 5 degrees of the fixed signs, okay? So Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, you guys are feeling this the most intensely because the square is going to be starting off right around these degrees. I'm especially looking at you, Leo, because if you have any sun, moon, or rising Leo placements within the first 5 degrees, you are going to be experiencing the grand fixed cross. So even though it feels like pressure, think back to what was going on last summer when we had Saturn in Aquarius, right? When we had Uranus in Taurus, the nodes were in the fixed signs. So much change happened for you over the summer, but you realized it was because you stepped into your purpose. That's what I want you to really focus on, because you're going to be feeling that the next couple of months with some of these squares. And I'll talk to all the 12 signs. Don't worry. I'll tell you guys where it's happening. The reason why I wanted to do the video and have it actually come out today is because the moon will be ingressing into Aquarius. So as the moon ingresses into Aquarius, it's going to come into conjunction with Pluto. It's going to square the sun, then it's going to square the nodes. So you guys are going to get a little sneak peek, a little taste of what this energy is going to be like. Now, the other signs that are going to feel this the most, if you have any placements between, I would say 26 and 29 degrees of the cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, sun, moon, rising, you guys are going to feel this, right? Because the eclipses are coming in. We're going to see an eclipse at 29 of Aries soon. We're going to see the nodes shift over this summer. We're going to see Pluto retrograde back to 27 degrees of Capricorn. It'll be happening this year. So you're going to start really feeling those squares. You guys are going to be the ones who are going to be out in the world creating the most change, hopefully helping the fixed signs kind of get with the program, kind of move along, right? I think that you're going to be like the innovators, and you're going to be the ones saying, hey, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this, helping guide people who are a little bit more resistant to change. Now, the Pluto in Aquarius lesson here, right, is overall Pluto in Aquarius represents a time of intense collective transformation, particularly in regards to technology, progress, and human connections. This placement is encouraging all of us to think outside of the box and embrace innovative approaches to social change and progress. Now, let me talk to you guys a little bit about the hot zones, okay? So I'll show you the hot zone dates here. Probably for starters, the big one that comes up for me will be the 20th and the 21st, because we will have just had that solar eclipse, which naturally also is very close to the North Node, helping us go towards our collective destiny. But as soon as that sun and moon shift into Taurus and touch the North Node, boom, they come into a square with Pluto. So mark your calendars for the 20th and the 21st. That's going to be your first kind of real ushering into this particular energy. We have got the sun square Pluto, which represents life and death, what we're growing, Taurus, what we're giving life to, what is developing, versus, our dreams, our group goals, our group kind of desires. And they're going to feel friction, right? And it's at 0 degrees. So this is going to represent the most potent energy of Taurus, life, Aquarius, groups, masses, others, also banking and technology, the financial economic situation and what's going on with politicians and government. We're going to hear so much stuff about this just from this particular square, because just after this, the moon is going to drop into Taurus, come into contact with Mercury, and Mercury is going to retrograde. So we're going to see the first real effects of some of the Pluto square the nodes as early as the eclipse. Now, a next hot zone that I was taking a look at is going to be right around mid-May. on the 16th. And I give you guys these dates just so you know, so you can write them down, put them on your calendar, you know, save them and go, okay, there's going to be some intensity this day. There's some pressure to change. So you're aware of it and you can consciously work with it. Okay. I don't say this to like, you know, create fear porn. All right. So this is the next day that we're going to see some change. And this is because this is the day that Jupiter will ingress into Taurus. 0 degrees, and it will immediately by degree square Pluto. So you're going to see something similar to what happened with the Sun square Pluto, but Jupiter is coming in, and Jupiter is an abundance planet. Okay, so it is about growth, options, money, resources, food. It wants to bring you more. So this may be more money coming into the markets. This might be also inflaming some of the issues that we're already seeing with you know, resources. It's known that we do see inflation and then we see deflation. So I'm anticipating maybe there's something kind of turning around, something that's shifting right around mid-May. In theory, you know, Jupiter conjunct the North Node, the Moon then coming into Taurus, you know, the next day or two. It's going to be impossible not to talk about what's going on globally with money. Okay, so then we're going to see this on the 17th. We see the Moon and Jupiter come together in Taurus, which is like, yes, cha-ching, especially conjunct the North Node, but it's still square Pluto. So it's saying this is what we have to gain. This is what we can possess. This is what we can value. But also where it's coming up against power structure, limitation, and control. And so there is this push and pull energy whenever you see squares taking place. The 16th and the 17th, watch out for this, especially if you have anything 29 degrees of the cardinal signs and about 0 to 1 degrees of the fixed signs, because you're very much going to be involved in this square. When planets touch on the North Node, this is where we kind of lean into, right? Even if it's scary, even if we don't know how it's going to go, it's really saying that there is the potential for growth, development, life, and abundance on the other side of fear. All right, and then finally in early June, we're going to see Pluto come into a square with the fixed nodes. And you notice like Jupiter touches on the North Node beginning of June. Pluto is now retrograding. It's going to come back into Capricorn around June 11th. And yes, it's still in a square, but you're not going to feel it as much, I think, until the North and the South Node hit 29 degrees in July. However, keep in mind, this is a hot degree, right? It's the last degree of Capricorn. It's a Saturn-based sign. It's about things that are trying to be held back and kept from being kind of like unleashed. Yes, we see lots of control. We see lots of limitation, especially when it comes to, you know, politics and governments. But I have a hunch that this is also them trying to reel things in before people start realizing and teaching themselves more about wealth, about their health, about how to feed themselves, how to eat healthy, also diversifying assets, looking into investments, which may be physical materials. It may also be agriculture. It may be people getting involved in tech and other things. Jupiter square Pluto is going to be about power grabs and people who are trying to take power or resources away, right? But the North Node always prevails. So with all these planets in Taurus conjunct the North Node, people are going to be creating their own wealth. People are going to be doing the heavy work or the investing or the knowledge or learning more about how to diversify and bring more resources in, even if that means going to other types of systems. There's a reason why we're hearing all of this talk around the world of like the BRICS nations wanting to develop their own currency. We've got countries, I think it was like Kenya that was saying stop using the US dollar. And there's all of this stuff going on. And at least being here in the United States, if this is potentially the fall of the petrodollar, I mean, we're screwed. We would be screwed. So I don't know what direction it's going to go. I just know that we're going to continue to see the power struggle between global kind of control of resources versus people or countries who still want their freedom. Now, I do think we're going to hear more also about like this FedNow program, the CBDCs, the digital currencies for central banking. I think we're also going to hear more about corruption and things in regards to the financial world. Just recently, this last week, we hear about how the developer of the Cash App was found dead and was stabbed No coincidence that, within several months of the US, getting ready to push what's going to be a very similar program that's going to be directly under their control, that's very similar. I don't know, it seems a little weird to me, but maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist. And then finally in early June, yeah, we see Pluto hit 29 degrees. So go back in time, look at what was happening the last couple months. We saw this like buildup of control, and then Pluto went into Aquarius, and we see protests in France, although you're not seeing all of them on the mainstream media, and you're seeing some of the other protests that are going on in other parts of the world in regards to people's reactions to not feeling like they have control of their resources, or being told what currency they need to be banking with, or how much they're able to actually obtain. We will see Jupiter start to move away from the North Node by about mid-June, and then it's going to take us here to when the North Node hits 29 degrees. And it's going to be right along this new moon in Cancer. I know I've brought this up several times, but when we get there, you guys will see what I'm talking about. So here we're going to have the new moon in Cancer. The sun and the moon are coming into opposition with Pluto. The North and the South Node hit 29 degrees. From about the 18th of July until the sun hits 29 degrees, so the 18th of July through the 22nd, this is like go time. 29, 29, 29, 29. And we're moving from having had 18 months of the North Node in Taurus, which has been a Venus-based placement, more love, more abundance, more life, more growth, now to a North Node in Aries, a Mars-based transit that is going to be about desire, passion, instinct, defense, action, military mobilization, people also focusing on themselves, right? We're starting to kind of lose that sense of balance and mediation and support with the South Node in Libra, and it starts coming into a square with Pluto. Perhaps this is when we start to kind of realize and wake up and look around collectively and go, what if some of the issues we've been having in relationships with our friends, our coworkers, our families, our partners has been a result of scare tactics and lots of mass manipulation and control? With Pluto and Capricorn, we're definitely going to see some very intense political things going on, some governments that are definitely going to be abusing their power. It's inevitable. And I think that it's really going to start to kind of wake some people up and make people realize, has the last couple of years been an orchestrated takedown in a means to cover up what has been some massive financial and human rights crimes, right? I hate to put it like that, but that's how I feel. I'm not going to candy coat it. I question every day the more that we start to see things that are going on, like in France, where they're, basically people are protesting because they want to raise the retirement age by 2 years before people can actually get their retirement money, which is, in some people's minds, oh, that's not a big deal, especially, here in the United States, where we have this work until you're dead mentality. But if you see people protesting like that over a couple of years that they're raising, you want to ask yourself, can you follow the money, right? Follow the money. Why are they doing that? Why are they making the decision to go and push this by 2 years unless there is no money there for people within their retirement accounts, because it's been used and abused and manipulated by their government, right? And I don't think it's just limited to France. I think we're seeing this across the board. If the writing's on the wall that the financial system is essentially a huge Ponzi scheme, and we've been paying into it with taxes, and we've been paying into it also with money that's supposed to be going into a retirement, only to find out that down the line, when push comes to shove, it's not going to be there, people are not going to be happy, right? And also I think it's going to be about people realizing that it makes sense if they wanted to prevent protest, if they wanted to prevent people from fighting back, that there had to be a virus that was out in the world that was keeping people from doing that. So, like I said, using the boiled frog reference, we don't realize that we're being boiled until it's been a slow, steady increase on that flame on the stove, right? So several years now of things being boiled, I think this is going to be the boiling point where people are going to realize, oh shit, we need to do something, we need to act. It's going to be an extravaganza for other reasons as well. And I'm working on a video right now to talk to you guys about the Venus retrograde that'll be setting up. But I find it fascinating that right when Venus is getting ready to go retrograde, all of these planets hit 29. And we're going to see Venus dance with Mercury and come into a square with Jupiter and Uranus. And that's also going to be some really, really interesting things for fashion, for art, for our love lives, for our finances. But But yeah, everything is this buildup, right? The pressure that you're feeling now is until we get to that point in time. So keep in mind, you know, while Pluto is in Aquarius, we're focusing on waking everybody up, waking up the collective. When we get Pluto into Capricorn and it retrogrades back and it's affecting the late degrees of the cardinal signs, the lesson then with Pluto and Capricorn is it's representing a time of intense transformation of power structures and institutions. This particular placement is going to encourage us to examine our relationship with authority and leadership and embrace a new way of structuring society that's going to align more with modern values and ideas, because it's building off of that ingress into Aquarius. So of course things are going to get really intense right towards the end, right? And you're going to see that there's going to be more power grabs, or there's going to be more fear and manipulation and control that's going to be going on. So watch for that, that 17th of July through the 22nd. But actually, we're going to feel that all the way until about mid-August. So right around August 18th, because it's going to square the nodes at 29 degrees, 28 degrees. And then right around the 18th, we're going to start to see the square, you know, kind of lessen. There will still be eclipses that are going to aspect Pluto. We'll get to those later in the year when the time has come. But I encourage all of you guys to really take a look. If you haven't cast your chart already, find your birth time, put it into a chart calculator online, pull up your chart, take a look at where Capricorn is, take a look at where Aquarius is. That Pluto dance is in preparation because something really needs to be finished. It needs to be worked out. It needs to be developed before that big change that's going to be coming for Pluto and Aquarius really in this next year. The beginning of 2024, as Pluto's coming back into that sign, and we see Mars and Venus that's going to be coming through Aquarius as well, is also going to be a huge turning point for all of us collectively. I'd love to hear how this is playing out for you guys. So if I forget to say this, please just leave me a comment below. Let me know where it's taking place in your chart, how you're feeling with that. And I want to take you guys briefly through the 12 signs just so I can show you where this square is taking place. So let me do that. And we'll start with everything being in the fixed signs just to make it easy. And I'll kind of show you guys how to look at this. So let's just make it simple and let's just look at Pluto. And we'll leave Jupiter in there too, because Jupiter is definitely doing its thing. Okay. As always, I'm a Western astrologer, so you guys want to be listening for your Western whole sign prediction. You can listen for Placidus if you'd like. If you want to listen for Placidus, you need to listen for obviously anywhere from 0 of Aquarius to 27 of Capricorn. But I really feel like everybody will benefit listening to the whole sign because it's going in and out of 2 different signs. And even if it's staying in the same house in your Placidus chart, you're definitely going to notice the flavor that's going to shift. But I'm a Placidus user myself. That's just my preference. Okay, you can listen to your progressed if you want to do that as well. So this is going to be for Aries and Aries rising. Really, it's just like, you know, let's say now all the way through August. That's when a lot of these changes are going to be taking place. As I film this, it's going to be like the mid-April period. So what we're really looking at for you here, Aries and Aries rising. Right now, Pluto is in your 11th house. Okay, so it's about changing of your goals, changing of your friends, changing of your networks. It may represent a death and rebirth period. Some of you guys will lose friends figuratively or literally. And it does also represent your goals really shifting, which will positively impact your resources, your wealth. Perhaps this is about making changes with the people you're networking with. Maybe you're trying to focus on, you know, merging and starting a business with a friend. Maybe you're trying to develop a group, something that's going to give you more abundance, okay? Because we've got Jupiter that's going into your 2nd house. Now, why do I say it has to do with your career? Well, you're going to see that in the months to come, Pluto will retrograde back to your 8th house. And it's been in an angular house, especially if you have any late degrees Aries. Obviously, this has been uncomfortable because you've been experiencing Pluto squares. But it's almost like Pluto's going back and saying, hey, we need to finalize making these changes here. before we can fully step into creating this group or creating this business. So something's merging. At the end of the year, there's going to be a retrograde that will be in Capricorn. So maybe there is a sense of working with this energy all year. Maybe you're planning it, you're getting ready to make the segue. And it can just be about your values in regards to friendships changing and, you know, maybe kind of reevaluating, like who really enriches your life, right? That's one way that I would look at it. Now, when the North Node moves into Aries and the South Node moves into Libra, you're going to have the node square Pluto in your 10th house, which means you're inevitably going to have some big changes in your relationships. It can be that you don't get along with a boss and you decide to quit. It can be that you go through a radical change in a relationship and suddenly you have a big relationship or a status change. It may also represent this sense of having changes with your joint resources and a partner is really pushing you and saying, hey, like, you know, make the job change, you know, do this or do that. And you're like, okay, the North Node is in my 2nd house. I'm still feeling the crunch of having to really push hard for making money and developing resources and assets. So you're kind of feeling like you're being pulled in both directions. Know that you have all year to work with this. You're just going to be feeling the pressure for the immediate next couple of months through the summer. Good luck. For Taurus and Taurus rising, hopefully you're doing well. This is a colorful one for you because you're feeling it right now. So you have got obviously the North Node that is still in your sign. Jupiter is going to be there very soon next month, bringing you more positivity, more abundance, more growth, more development. Okay, there's something changing about your philosophy, the way that you're embracing change and resources. Right now, you've got the nodes coming into a landlock in angular houses. So life is loud right now. Changes are going to come that are going to be very big and very, very profound. With Jupiter in your 1st house bringing the positivity, it's coming into fear in regards to work and career, right? Pluto rules your 7th of relationships. So kind of similar actually to Aries, there can be a sense of, I'm afraid of changing my status. I'm afraid of changing jobs. I am dealing with, you know, a boss at work that's just riding my behind and they're really difficult to get along with, having difficulty with maybe even romantic relationships or with clients. What this is saying, because Pluto rules the 7th house, is that partners are going to be instrumental in helping you change the way that you look at your destiny in regards to your career, your responsibility out in the world. Yes, there can be some professional or romantic growing pains. You're still seeing that with the South Node in your 7th house, that partners are going through some kind of change. When you see Pluto retrograde back into Capricorn for Taurus, Sun, Moon, and risings, especially if you have planets in the late degrees, 27 to 29 degrees of Taurus, you will be experiencing pretty much the tail end. You'll have a little bit next year of Pluto trines. So this is really helpful. It's empowering you. It's all about changing your belief in your philosophy. Yes, Pluto in the 9th house can totally radically change your belief system. It can change where you're traveling. It can change what you're studying. It can bring up legal issues as well because Pluto in the 8th house is touching on the 7th house Lord. So some of you guys may be saying, hey, I'm separating from somebody professionally. We need to get a lawyer involved. I'm going through a divorce or a separation. I need to talk to an attorney. Yes, that can happen. But I think with Jupiter on your ascendant, it's all about how you're looking at and embracing change and what it means to really go through the rebirth period. And something really significant might also be changing about your appearance. With Jupiter on your ascendant, Pluto on your midheaven, just be mindful. There's a lot of visibility for you right now. So all eyes are going to kind of be on you. So how you decide to go about this change and how people see you is going to be profound. Pluto can put you in a position of, really showing some things that you don't want visible out in the open. Okay. Good luck, Taurus. For Gemini and Gemini rising, you have got a Pluto square setting up between the North Node, the South Node, and Pluto in Aquarius in the 9th house. Well, Pluto is actually kind of your friend, Gemini, because it's a sister sign, okay? So especially if you're a really early degree Gemini, like the first 2 or 3 degrees, you will be experiencing Pluto trining your ascendant, sun, or moon, which is empowering. Especially potent for my Gemini risings. It does seem to kind of suggest that There is a change or a transformation of your beliefs, especially when it comes to health, when it comes to service. Pluto rules your 6th house. This can also represent really powerful teachers, mentors coming into your life, people who might totally help you transform your belief or your philosophy. I think with Pluto square the nodes and eclipses that are happening with the South Node in your 6th house, some of you guys may be going through some job or scheduling or health changes. You're wanting to really work with people who are going to help you really be of service to yourself or other people, developing new skills and making it possible for you to be able to grow. You've got Jupiter, your 7th and 10th house lord, moving into the 12th. So it tells me there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. There can be opportunities also for travel and new studying that can also be in foreign places, or maybe you're learning, you know, like mystical, magical traditions. Maybe you're going back to school and getting a degree, and you see that Pluto in your 8th house is about the power of education and being able to complete something, right? Making the time for it. Regardless, for the most part, look for the trine from Pluto to your personal planets in Gemini to really help you. If you are not within the 0 to 3 degree realm, you know, you'll get that in the years to come. You'll start seeing that trine pretty soon. But those of you guys with the earlier ascendants are going to have a much easier time. Okay, good luck. For Cancer and Cancer rising, you're going to be experiencing Pluto square the nodes, and Pluto is in Aquarius in your natal 8th house. Well, you know, Aquarius is a sign that quincunx are in conjunct your sign, especially if you're an early degree Cancer rising. There is a sense of being a little uncomfortable with change, needing to get down to, you know, doing the dirty work. The good thing is Pluto in the 8th house is wonderful because it actually enjoys being there, right? And this also represents the energy natally of, you know, the 8th house cusp and how it quincunx are in conjuncts the ascendant, which is what we look like, and it's about birth. The ascendant represents the birth hour. Pluto on the cusp is saying like you're going through things that's really challenging your typical demeanor. Moods can be heavier. You can be more aware of shadow self. Wonderful time to be embracing change, working through grief, loss, letting go. Some of you guys may really benefit through going through therapy or working with a trauma specialist. Now, Pluto rules the 5th house, and it's in a square to the nodes, and the nodes are the North Node in the 11th and the South Node in the 5th. This makes me feel like working through trauma relating to heartbreak, relating to loss of friends or loss of lovers. There can also be finally kind of combating and dealing with emotional issues that have been kind of hang-ups for some time. That's created sexual issues, financial issues, addictions, patterns, habits, you know, and it's like time to really kind of get to the core of some of that stuff. The good news is that you have friends in high places. You have supportive friends with the North Node and Jupiter getting ready to hang out into your 11th. So you're going to have friends that will reach out to you, they'll visit you, you can travel with them, they'll want to connect with you and like help you feel supported through your time of transformation. Just the North Node being in your 11th in general, I would say it's a time to move outside of your own little bubble with the South Node in the 5th and go and meet other people. So joining groups, networks, even like group meetings can be really wonderful if you're struggling with addiction or if you're struggling with some emotional stuff. People who can, you know, help provide insight and like really kind of connect with you and change your philosophy about life. Really lean on your friends. That's the way out of some of these transits, okay? Good luck. All right, so this is gonna be for Leo and Leo rising. Hold on to your shorts. Life's gonna get a little loud here. You, especially if you have anything within the first like 0 to 3 degrees of Leo, rising in particular. You've got Pluto that's now in Aquarius coming into a square with the nodes. All right, so if you have that Leo there, you're creating the fixed cross, so everything's about to change. So here's the positive. Pluto's going into the 7th house, totally radically changing and transforming your relationships. Pluto is the ruler of your 4th house of home and family. So the fact that Pluto is moving into the 7th, some of you guys are changing your home, changing your relationships. Maybe it's about how home and family relationships are changing because of getting married, having kids, separating, things like that. Yes, you can see people moving in or out of your home. That is possible. But you've got the North Node in your 10th house, which is so much growth for your career. Jupiter will be there soon, really kind of expanding and bringing you more abundance, more resources, and really helping you rise up in your career. If you're not looking for relationships, if you're not dating, part of this square might be about the pressure that you're feeling to go and meet others. So the 7th house might be, you know, getting a business manager, having a business partner. It can be a friendship because it's in the sign of Aquarius. It can also be about counselors, therapists, and other people who come in to help kind of guide you with some of these life changes that you're making, especially in your career or in your home. Now with the square, it also represents that there's some like change or transformation process that's going on with others. So oftentimes it's not even about you, but oppositions are relational. So it's going to be about how you are responding to some of the changes that your partners are going through, right? Even if it's clients. Anyway, with Jupiter being the ruler of your 8th and your 5th house, it does seem to suggest that there's changes going on in regards to joint resources, your love life, possibly even new creative projects that are coming on board that you're getting ready to share out professionally in the world. That can bring you more abundance. With a highlighted 7th and a 10th house, you're definitely in the spotlight. There's a lot of visibility, so it can be a really prominent time where you are really showcasing what you have to offer, especially out in the world professionally or with your relationships. When you see Pluto retrograde back into the 6th and the nodes go into the 9th and into the 3rd, you're going to see Pluto square the nodes really being in the 6th house. So that tells me that there's going to be changes going on with like your schedule, your routines, things at home. There may be some issues with coworkers that come up. There may be some health patterns or habits that you need to address and that you need to deal with. There may also be more of a sense of needing to reorganize and bring things physically into your home space or people to kind of help you move through some of that stuff, okay? What's really nice, especially if you have your midheaven in Taurus at a later degree, is that you're going to have Pluto trine. So through kicking the bad habits, focusing on changing work and your routine, asking for help, it's only going to help you improve your career. Good luck. For Virgo and Virgo rising, you are going to see Pluto square the nodes in an oh so familiar house, the 6th house. My Virgos. Having Pluto recently move into your 6th house is bringing a huge shift and a transformation, I think, in regards to the way that you guys communicate, the way that you guys think, and also your daily habits, okay? So Pluto in the 6th house, can it bring a health crisis? Yes. Can it bring some kind of villain at work? Absolutely. Deaths of pets are possible, but so are deaths and endings of bad habits. Now, Pluto rules your 3rd house, so I think that this is going to be about changing the mind, moving away from pessimistic or negative thoughts, focusing on less screen time, perhaps, or less technology or gadgets. And it can even be quitting smoking with the South Node in your 3rd house, or something that you're doing with your hands. It can be like a nervous habit. Now, Pluto is going to be in a square to the North Node in the 9th house, and Jupiter will be there as well. So what's funny is I think some of you guys may be moving or making changes in your offices. With Jupiter being connected to partners and home, it is possible that also part of what's changing is your work habits or your routine, because some of you guys may be moving, traveling, going back to school with Jupiter moving into your natal 9th house. With the North Node and Jupiter being in a sister sign of Taurus, trining your ascendant, I think it's a wonderful time to get out there, travel, learn, explore, be willing to maybe work in a different way. I could see some of you guys trying to become digital nomads or trying to become more self-sufficient when it comes to the work that you're doing, and kind of setting your life up in a way where if you do want to travel or if you do want to take courses or classes, you can, right? When Pluto retrogrades back into Capricorn, it's going to be in your 5th house, and you're going to have trines, especially if you have late degrees of Virgo, on and off for like the next year or so. Really opening up the heart space, allowing you to focus on love, transformation of creativity, romance, and also self-expression. So if you have late degrees, really work with that trine. Although you're going to have the South Node in the 2nd house, then the North Node is going to be in the 8th house, and it's going to square Pluto in the 5th. So this can represent like, learning how to communicate more in a heart sense, talking or communicating about children, maybe moving in with a partner. There can also be themes going on in regards to, you know, whether or not you're willing to take risks financially. Certainly South Node moving through Libra over the next year and a half is going to bring changes and losses in regards to resources. So not all the resources that are there will always be there. You may make changes in how you're making money or how you're spending money, but the North Node is going to move through your 8th. So some of you guys may get inheritances. You pool your money together with a partner. You're focusing on what you're getting from other people, and you start to see that you have support. For some of you guys, I think it's literally going to be either about children, joint resources with a partner, or trying to find a way to be able to grow your income through some of your own talents. Okay? Good luck. For Libra and Libra rising, you have got Pluto in the sign of Aquarius coming into a square with the North and the South Node in Scorpio and Taurus. Well, especially if you're an early degree Libra rising, if you were like 0 to 3 degrees, you've got Pluto trine your ascendant right now, which is a very powerful time in your life where there's lots of changes and transformations that are going on, not only with you, your relationship with yourself and your body, but also your heart space. Pluto's just recently moved into Aquarius. It's been spending quite a bit of time in your 4th house. So actually getting Pluto out of your 4th house is a reprieve because it's not bringing up all of the family drama, the property issues, issues with home, landlords, roommates, or issues with a parent. Now, it'll only be in Aquarius very briefly. So when it is, work with it, especially if you have any early degrees of Libra, because whatever is changing and transforming within your 5th house is meant to really open up the relationship with yourself. So Pluto in the 5th house can bring like lots of drama, especially in your love life. It can bring intense passions and changes in regards to your hobbies. Pluto rules the 2nd house of resources and personal possession. So the fact that it's moving into the 5th house, you want to watch for like jealousy and possessiveness in relationships. There can also be challenges that are coming in regards to things that you've been holding on to since childhood. Obviously, this can also bring some radical changes to your creative or your sense of self-expression. The 5th house does also deal with children. So with Pluto square the North and the South Node, it may feel like a time where there's like something significant going on with one of your children, or making decisions about children, or perhaps even investments, right? Anything that's speculative or creative. Now, with the North Node in the 8th house, it's about embracing change, fear, and also anything in regards to joint resources. This encourages you to go deeper into intimacy and merging with another person. The fact that Jupiter, your 3rd house ruler, is in a square to Pluto tells me that this is about you opening up about your fears and communicating things that are changing on a heart space, which may also impact you or your partner's resources in some way. Now, when Pluto goes back into Capricorn, especially if you have late degrees of Libra, so 27, 28, 29 degrees, Pluto is still going to be in a square to your ascendant. So you're still feeling like the breakdown, the change, and the transformation at home. You're feeling that square to your ascendant, which can affect your body and also just like feeling more lovable. And your descendant, which is going to bring up the themes in regards to changes in relationships. Now, over the summer, the North Node will go into the 7th. We've got eclipses in the 7th. This is going to be about partners of destiny coming in. Business partners, romantic partners, friends, alliances. Your 7th house can be a therapist. It can also be an astrologer. So some of you guys may bring in some new people to kind of help support you. If you're single, pay attention, because I think with Pluto in the 5th and the North Node in the 7th, it is very possible some of you guys are going to meet someone or something that you fall very much in love with. The key here is going to be when the nodes are in the 1st and the 7th house, how you are working to release and let go of things and learning to lean on other people to make the changes that need to be made within the home or the family or emotionally so you feel more supported. Good luck, Libra. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, we have got Pluto square the nodes, which is probably the most interesting for you, next to maybe like Aquarius or Leo, because Pluto is your ruling planet, that and Mars. So you've got the South Node in your sign, you've got the North Node in your 7th house, really expanding relationships and partners of destiny. If you guys are single and you're looking to meet somebody, just hold tight. You're gonna find that over the next year or so, both with the wrapping up of the eclipses, Jupiter also, that there is still room for growth here, okay? All roads lead to 2024. 2024, when you have like a Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, it might be like that sudden, unexpected, getting married, windfall, really well-off financial partner that shows up. Like things are going to continue to get good. The challenge here is getting out of your own way, Scorpio, okay? It's getting out of your own way. So because Pluto rules you, wherever Pluto goes, it's an archetype of you. So Pluto is now in the 4th house, which means home, family, change is like on the horizon, whether that's like demoing a house and rebuilding it, moving across country, saying goodbye to a parent, making a huge shift in regards to your own inner emotional world. Something really significant is about to take place. This square represents where the change at home is helping take away from you, okay? So in a good way or a bad way, it can mean that there's so much family crisis or drama going on that you're not taking care of yourself. It can mean that there is so much change that's happening that it's forcing you to actually go, it's not just about me, it's about other people. Because you have the North Node and Jupiter for the next few months in your 7th house, which means there is growth in relationships, growth in partnerships, more clients, more opportunity, more money, more development that's going to be going on in regards to your relationships with others. So regardless of who it's with, although the 7th house can be about marital partners, I have a hunch that you're going to start to see that people are saying, hey, I need your help with this. And you're like, this is scary. I don't know how to do this. But it's teaching you to let other people in and like learn how to actively participate in a relationship and work through what can be some difficult times. When the North Node goes into Aries and the South Node goes into Libra, it's going to be squaring Pluto, which will retrograde back into your 3rd house. At least it's in a sign that's more comfortable. I mean, especially if you have late degrees of Scorpio, you're going to see a sextile between Pluto in the 3rd and your ascendant. And it means that you're changing your mind, changing the way that you communicate. Communication is king. You're going to realize that the way to get through difficult things is to learn how to navigate having difficult conversations, not letting your mind kind of run away with itself, and learning that words are meant to be empowering and having conversations that need to be had before Pluto comes back into Aquarius. Some of you guys will move. Some of you guys are going to have some strife with siblings. I also would say you guys really want to pay attention. Be careful while you're driving, because Pluto in the 3rd square the North Node in the 6th can bring about some kind of accident. Be mindful of how you're communicating, writing, texting, stuff like that, because it can be a little intense. And I also think that this is going to be about radically changing the way that you look at your daily routine and also service, how you're helping other people. The South Node will sit in your 12th house, so there's going to be like this collective clearing and unlocking that's kind of going on, helping you focus on shedding all of like this past trauma that maybe you've had in relationships or past life karma in regards to relationships as well. So the key is actually embrace change and encourage other people to help support you and be open when you communicate what's scary so you can actually grow more in relationships. Good luck. We've got Sag and Sag rising. You're going to be experiencing Pluto coming into a square with the nodes, and it is in your natal 3rd house. Well, especially if you're an early degree Sag rising, the first 3 degrees, Pluto is still sextiling your ascendant. I like that. I feel like the more that you're, being very Jupiterian, like traveling and exploring and communicating and sharing, Pluto in this part of your chart might actually be amazing for changing the way that you communicate. You might learn a new language. You might start journaling and writing and doing like these mental dumps that's going to kind of help you clear anxiety or trauma. Now, Pluto rules your natal 12th house of the deep subconscious. And so that's why I feel like some of you guys might start getting into dream journaling, reading tarot, learning more about astrology, really trying to figure out how to unlock the subconscious mind, right? But Pluto is still in a landlock between the 6th and the 12th house north and south node. So it represents a need to change or transform something about the 3rd house. Cars can break down, computers can fry, moves may need to happen, difficult conversations with siblings or neighbors are possible. But Pluto is being squared by Jupiter, and Jupiter's coming into your 6th house, touching on the North Node, and Jupiter is your chart ruler. So it's basically saying that you're focusing on getting solid in your routines and your habits and your diet. I do think some of you guys are going to be trying to focus on healthier habits, and you realize that starts with the mind and like learning how to communicate and see where some of these habits or these patterns come from. You may have to learn new systems, new technology, other things to be able to grow your daily routine and grow perhaps even your business. And this will make more sense next year when you see Jupiter go into the 7th. It may mean that some of you guys start websites, podcasts, online tutorials that you start teaching. Some of you guys may also start selling something that's going to bring you like more abundance. So if you want to kind of break out of your daily routine and not feel like you need to have a 9 to 5, you may. You'll see more of that in 2024 though. Now, when the North Node goes into Aries and the South Node goes into Libra, Pluto will retrograde back into the 2nd house, which means there's still a lot of change and transformation going on about subconscious money or financial fears. It's squaring the 11th house of others. It's squaring the 5th house of yourself. This may materialize for some of you as going, I really need to put, all of my energy and talent into this one thing so I can bring this talent out and I can make money off of it. Or I can be more creative. I can develop my own business. Man, with Jupiter being there right now and the North Node coming into your 5th house, you guys are going to give birth to something, whether it's a child or it ends up being your own business. It could be the beginning of a new relationship. It might even be that you start learning about the power of investing because, Pluto being in the 2nd house of money, squaring the nodes in the 5th is about taking chances and what you do in situations where things are falling apart and you may jump in and actually make money. The key with the square to the South Node is that you're realizing that you can't focus too much on what other people think. You have to focus on what your beliefs are or what you're investing your time or energy into to really see some of your dreams come on board. And I think a lot of the focus on pushing some of the stuff, especially to develop new skills, is so you have more freedom with your schedule. If you want to travel, if you want to do other things. And I think it's about trying to find a way to bring some of this stuff online or just changing the way that you communicate. Good luck, Sag. We've got Cap and Cap rising. You're like, no, Pluto's coming back. We've got Pluto in Aquarius for a short period of time here. Pluto's coming into a square with the nodes, okay? So Pluto in the 2nd house, power with money and possessions and resources, right? Pluto being the ruler of your 11th, hanging out in the 2nd, tells me that you're really changing and transforming your values, your self-esteem, and also your financial goals. Recently, there's probably been some huge shakeups in regards to your resources. I know Cap risings that have gotten inheritances, that have gone bankrupt, that have, practiced minimalism and they've given everything away or they've sold everything. The list goes on. Pluto does some wild things here. You want to be mindful that the 2nd house can be about possessions and where you feel like you must have something, right? Whether it's a bag or a pair of shoes or an object. And Pluto rules the 11th house. So like where you're picking up on these subconscious desires to own or possess something because other people have it, right? And you're learning to be like, I don't care about that. That doesn't matter. Pluto is also in a square to the 5th house North Node here over the summertime. And it'll come into a square also with Jupiter. So it's going to enhance this whole, I must have this thing. I will possess this thing. It can be literal people. That's the other thing. It can be possessiveness or jealousy over friends. It can be over lovers. There can be power struggles over finances and also romantic partners or even children. With the North Node and Jupiter in your 5th house that's setting up here pretty soon, it does seem to suggest that there is some growth and some expansion, is some good news coming in regards to hobbies, creativity, investments, your love life, your kids. Yes, with eclipses in your 5th house and Jupiter being here, especially in October, some of you guys might be getting good news from your children or finding out that you're pregnant. But it can put some pressure on finances with Pluto in the 2nd house. I think that, the square to the South Node is learning to let go, like I said, of certain groups and certain friends or belief systems. Now in July, when Pluto retrogrades back to Capricorn, it's going to be back in your sign, especially if you're a Cap rising. It's representing like the last year or so of going through personal change and transformation and really feeling empowered by the decisions that you're making. Here's the good news. While Jupiter and the North Node are in Taurus, especially if you're the first 5 or 6 degrees, it's trining your ascendant. Actually, you're going to have Jupiter trine your ascendant if you have 0 to 15 degrees. So Jupiter is really moving from the 5th house of have more fun, have more creativity, fall in love, take chances. And it's getting you out of this kind of stiff, stuffy, ascendant sign that you have. I think that it will show you where, if you're focusing on building or investing your time or your energy and being positive and enjoying things, you can go through this personal change or transformation. Pluto also in your first house can change your body. So if there does end up being like a child or a pregnancy, your body obviously can change. I think it'll be interesting because the North Node will move into the 4th, and we're going to see the South Node move into the 10th. So you're learning to let go of or release old responsibilities out in the world, jobs or things in regards to your public image. Yes, it's going to square Pluto. So some of you guys are going to go, I'm having a difficult time accepting the fact that I'm no longer, you know, a CEO and now I'm a parent, or I'm having a difficult time because I've never worked and now there's all this responsibility for me out in the world or at home. So you're going to feel like you're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place the next couple of months. I think with the time being, eclipses being in your 4th house, Jupiter being in your 4th house, the North Node coming in your 4th house, I would ask a lot of Capricorn risings, like, do you have a home? How is your family? Do you like where you're living? Do you need to relocate? Do you want to buy a house, flip a house, renovate, get involved in property? Are you having to go help take care of a mother figure or dealing with a will or an estate? These things can be coming up. So Pluto's archetype has been alive and well for you guys since 2008. You're at the tail end of it. Just realize that you're going to feel the crunch right now, and it's going to be about how you personally deal with going through some kind of change or transformation. Good luck. For Aquarius and Aquarius rising, you guys are going to be the little hellions in the world that are helping everybody just like embrace the chaos, right? I love the Aquarius risings right now. Pluto in your sign, right? You've had this for a hot minute, especially if you're like the first 3 degrees of Aquarius. You've been feeling that conjunction. That is going to hell and back. So you guys are going to get your passport stamped. Change, transformation, right? Superseding pain or agony or fear, transmuting that. That's really the lesson here. Pluto rules your 10th house of your career and responsibility, and it sits on the ascendant. So some of you guys are going through such personal change and transformation, you can't really show up for work right now, or you can't show up for other people, or you don't want to. You want to change something about your personal appearance or your personal image, and you're realizing that it's the change that needs to happen, but it's not comfortable. Issues with power struggles at work or with a parent can happen. I think with Pluto coming into a square with the North Node in the 4th, it's about how you personally are going through such transformations that you're like, I don't feel comfortable in the old job position I was in, or that old, like, you know, title. And I also don't really know where I'm going, right? You're kind of in limbo. Just take a breather, take it easy. Know that it's all going to be about how you're better supporting the body right now as you move through some of these changes. And your number one priority is taking care of you, because your 10th house lord of responsibility is in your 1st house. Some of you guys may become your own boss. You might have a Jerry Maguire moment and say, like, who's coming with me? And you quit and you leave. You may experience some power struggles in regards to your home, your family, or anybody within your domestic zone. So like roommates and other people as well. Because Pluto in your 1st house is very strong, and it's challenging the North Node and Jupiter. So it's challenging the growth or something in regards to expansion of home. Some of you guys may be experiencing, you know, kids that are moving away, or, you know, maybe you're relocating to a new city or country altogether. That North Node Jupiter wants to bring you more comfort, more abundance, more expansion in your home, but it's all going to be about what changes you're willing to undergo in order to kind of usher that in. When Pluto moves back into Capricorn, we are going to see the South Node move into the 9th and the North Node move into the 3rd. So Pluto will be the focal point in the 12th to the North and South Node in these houses. As Pluto squares the North Node in the 3rd, I think it's bringing up the theme of communication, the mind, ideas, sharing. Yes, you can get kind of squirrely. It can be harder to communicate. But some of you guys might learn new languages. Some of you guys might focus on writing, and you need like private alone time to be doing that, or filming or blogging or something like that. And then the South Node is going to move into the 9th. And I find it interesting that Pluto in the 12th is the focal point. So I have a feeling like a lot of Aquariuses are like, I want to produce a movie, I want to write a novel, like I want to tell my life story, and you're just working hard in a back room, putting something together, or being behind the scenes, getting ready for like this grand reveal that might happen later this year or next year, and being like, yeah, this is how I've transformed. I used to be doing this for a living, and now I'm doing that, right? just keep in mind, this to me seems like a tease, right? Noah, I've talked about how Pluto in Aquarius for a few months is like the preview. You've gotten a tease of how much you want this change, how amazing it could be to kind of have that huge shift for you. And so you're going to have to go back into the 12th house and kind of sit and meditate on it and think about it and keep doing the work before likely there's a grand reveal and a total shift to your identity, especially come the beginning of 2024. Good luck. And last but certainly not the least, the sign that watches everybody else's signs, we've got Pisces. Pisces and Pisces rising. You've got a Pluto in Aquarius square the nose that's setting up the next few months. Pluto is in your 12th house, which is about the deep subconscious, what's hidden, private. It can be about self-undoing, okay? Pluto rules your 9th house of philosophy, education, the higher mind, and the beliefs. So I'm wondering if some of you guys are like, I'm ready to run away and like hide out in a foreign country. I want to go back to school. I wanted to get a degree. This is like the really amazing, talented CEO that's behind the scenes, that's just doing all of the work, but nobody's seeing it. Really working in a profound way to just change things in regards to either your beliefs and your subconscious. It's challenging when you see, you know, squares in any capacity, but this one is really interesting because I feel like there's something shifting either about your philosophy, what you're learning, or your spiritual or religious beliefs, because we've got something tied between the 9th house lord in the 12th and then the squares between the 3rd and the 9th. So these are generally mutable type of houses, right? And if Pluto is the focal point, it may represent like the change and the transformations going on in the world and how you may feel like the world is ending, but it's actually inspiring you to go, I want to learn more, I want to write more, I want to communicate more, I want to share more. And just meditating on, you know, your perspectives. What's kind of cool also is that you're going to see your chart ruler, one of your chart rulers, Jupiter, touch on the North Node, which can be an indication of like positive trips, new vehicles, communications, new gadgets, and also opportunities financially that are kind of arising that's challenging Pluto. So some of you guys might start learning about like money, like global money and exchange. Maybe you're learning more, listening to videos or reading books on finances, and you're kind of trying to get prepared for some of the financial changes coming in the world. And, you know, using apps and message boards and stuff, becoming savvy. So that way you're really prepared and you're knowledgeable, right? North Node Taurus, knowledgeable about resources in the 3rd house. You might start writing or blogging or talking about it as well. And I wonder if this is going to be stuff that's also connected to you forecasting using patterns and trends. If not, you might start listening to these people. Now, when Pluto retrogrades, it's going to go back into Capricorn in your 11th house, where it's going to finish up changing your transformation of resources with others. It's going to be about your networks, changes with your friends, changes to your goals. You may find that, you know, you're connecting with powerful friends in other places. Especially if you have a late degree Pisces rising, so 27 to 29 degrees, that sextile to your ascendant, but also Neptune on your ascendant is going to be a keen intuition that's going to help you really decide what groups to connect with, who to be friends with, you know, what your goals really are, and it's going to help you kind of put your vision together. By then, the North Node will be in your 2nd house, where you're focusing on making your own money, developing your own resources, having a healthy sense of self-esteem. You're going to have to work hard for it, but I do think it will be rewarding. And you're going to have the South Node in your 8th house. So you may feel that you are feeling more responsible financially, or there's just more financial upheaval and you're having to spend money on things or pay things off, or maybe, you know, you have a partner that's not working for a period of time and you're like, I got to get out there and make something happen. I got to connect with people who are movers and shakers, even if it's in other places, so that way I can continue to really grow my wealth and continue to keep bringing money in, right? So surround yourself with people, with Pluto and Capricorn in your 11th, surround yourself with people who are movers and shakers, people who have goals. They're not just talking about being successful. They're not wasting their time doing that. They're out there actually making it happen because you're going to become most like the people who you surround yourself with. I love that Saturn's in your sign, and we're going to start to see Saturn also sextile aspects in Taurus. So the more that you're committed to your goals, the more that you're able to travel, communicate, connect, maybe even write or create something that can be very prominent, that can bring you some kind of consistent kind of income that's coming in. Especially if you guys want to make videos or if you want to have subscriptions, and anything Taurus based. So about food, trading, money, gardening, you know, beauty, stuff like that. Even going and getting like a channel monetized can be really wonderful, because Saturn in your sign is going to have you being like, I'm the professional. I know what I'm talking about, and people may actually pay to hear what you have to say. All right, guys, that was a long one, but that's okay. I'm excited to see how this is playing out for you. This is a video you can come back to between now and August, and you can see how that's playing out. So don't forget those dates. April 20th, May 16th, early June, and mid-August is when you're going to feel the pinch. Please do leave me your comments below. I always love hearing from you guys and hearing how this is playing out for you guys, because there's a lot of astrologers out there who just want to regurgitate and they just want to give you, you know, the weather report. I like to talk about my own experiences. I like to share when I've gone through transits. I like to talk about how tough times and difficult transits, especially Pluto, hard-angled Pluto transits, can produce crisis, but it can be total pivotal breakthrough moments. So from somebody who has Pluto square the nodes, I didn't go into it too much, but I'll just say resistance has always really shown me that it's not the way forward, that the more that I'm resisting, inevitably I'm going to see that change happen. So you can get with it now, right? Embrace the change, especially with the Jupiter squares. It's really going to help you see the positivity and the growth. Or you can fight it, but if you fight it, remember, Pluto always says transmute or die. And if enough people collectively do this with Pluto and Aquarius, I think we can see some huge physical shifts in the world that is actually going to be bringing more food, more abundance, more art, more beauty, more love to everyone. So please leave me your comments. I'd love to hear it below. Make sure you're subscribed. Give me that thumbs up. Sharing is caring if you guys want to share this video with someone else. And if you guys want to book a personal reading with me, check out my links below on my website at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. I've got openings for July and August of 2023. I have my astrology calendar that's on sale. You guys can still pick that up in digital or physical form. Equally, I just released my Astro 201, my second level for astrology, 8 different courses shot live in my digital classroom, all kinds of work talking about prediction techniques, my transit techniques, solar returns, Venus returns, progressed planets, all that stuff. So I show you guys all of the techniques that I use to make predictions in my own personal sessions, and I cap it all off with a live going back and forth with clients and showing you guys some of the chart demonstrations. So that's actually on my website now if you guys want to pick that up. And I will be back on Friday. We'll be doing live readings tomorrow, tarot readings. I'll make sure I post that link in the community tab if you guys want to sign up in advance and get a reading with me. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your week. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care.